Greetings, race fans, and welcome to RaceSpot TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, my partner, Racing Ron Mons, and our producer today, Ramiro Agustin Cisneros. And today brings us to week 9 of 2025 season 2 at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, located on the island of Notre Dame in Montreal, Canada. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is currently host to the Canadian Grand Prix, past host to Champ Car, Grand Am, and NASCAR. First race back in 1978, won by the hometown hero here in Montreal, who is the track's namesake. Our track record 1:13.078 by Valtteri Bottas in a Mercedes F1 car back in 2019. And Ron, this track presents unique challenges for these radicals, and these drivers may need to curb their enthusiasm.
Yeah, with that very nice mention out of the way, this is a track that can really put these drivers right on their butt. It's been quite some time since we've seen the Radical Esports Cup, the Radical SR10 official series here on the iRacing platform run around here. In fact, the last time that the official series ran at this track, it wasn't even called the Radical Esports Cup. Been quite some time, but it's another fantastic part of the season schedule here for Season 2 of 2025. Really looking forward to the final few races that we have. And speaking of, the schedule that we have for the next few weeks to round off Season 2 of 2025 is an absolute gem.
Yeah, and taking a look where we are in week 9, but there's plenty of good action left. Look at that VIR, the American Nordschleife next week, week 10, followed by a trip down to Bathurst, Mount Panorama, and rounding out the season at Jose Carlos Paz for week 12. So some fantastic circuits, and my goodness, really looking forward to the conclusion of this season. And before we look at this week's standings, I want to remind everyone that this is not a private or league event. We are broadcasting the iRacing officials here, 2100 GMT, as we do every Friday. So if you want to give these radicals a whirl, practice up, show up, and sign up. And if you make the top split, you can appear both on RaceSpot TV and the official iRacing YouTube channel alongside some of the best radical drivers in the world. And speaking of, there they are. Number 1, Havard Gullikson, followed by Rafa Blanco, Andreas Friedrich, George Gonzaga, Heinz Braun, round out your top 5. Andre Castro in 6, followed by Kettle Larson, Solly Wrighton, and Christopher Yanakis and Denis Kyriakopoulos. And looking down that list and looking at our grid, we absolutely do have some of the best radical drivers in the world here. And we'll take a look at a little bit of qualifying action now. Qualifying winding down, about 4 minutes remaining. The beautiful overhead view of the facility there in Montreal. And Ron, this track does present some challenges, and the number one thing that leaps out is risk taking. We got some walls close to the track, we got some tall curbs, and you have to have close encounters with both of those to get a good time around here.
Yeah, to put in a good lap time here at Montreal, you have to be ever so slightly uncomfortable, whether it be some close quarters moments coming out of the final chicane, heading through into the Wall of Champions, preferably missing the Wall of Champions in an ideal world, but whether it be heading through the final turn, whether it be heading through the hairpin, or some of the braking zones around this track, especially heading through turn number 1, it's a track where you have to run on the ragged edge of control all throughout it. If you want to get the maximum amount of pace, you need to be ever so slightly uncomfortable running around here, and these cars are ones that can keep these drivers on their toes. You look through and see the drivers that we have in this session, drivers who have been around the block before in these SR10s, but even they can probably attest that leaving this race, they're probably going to be happy to see the backside of this racetrack. It's one that even will make the most talented and most venerated race car drivers the most uncomfortable.
Yeah, too right, Ron, and some great camera work there, watching Christopher Yanakis bounce that radical across that final chicane onto the pit straight. These cars don't really like going up on curbs. The suspension is pretty tight on them, and that splitter nut likes to be nice and close to the track to create downforce. And when you bounce over those tall curbs, especially there, you are rolling the dice, but it is a requirement to get around here quickly. And Ron, how many tracks out there actually have a feature on the track track named after crashes like they do here in Montreal. And speaking, of course, of the Wall of Champions there right at the beginning of the pit straight, which has collected a number of excellent drivers over the years. And we may see some incidents there. We'll have a big draft coming off of that back straight, and we'll have some contested entries into that final chicane. And that can lead to trouble with these radicals or any car.
You know, I got one for you, JR. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a crash. It was a collision, force elbow at Bathurst. It wasn't necessarily a crash. It was just a motorcycle racer scraping his elbow coming out of that corner onto the Conrad straightaway. And then obviously you got the Conrad straightaway, which known for throwing some motors some other drivers' ways. So we may need to find a rabbit hole of sections of racetracks all across the world named after collisions or things that may go wrong heading off through that section of the track. But nonetheless, this is an absolute classic here. This track is also a little bit out of date when it comes to the scan that we're running at here today. This scan was done all the way back in the early 2010s, if my memory serves me correctly. You can see based on some of the NASCAR branding around here, but nonetheless, it's going to be a gem for this SR10 race, and let's take a look at that starting grid.
Alrighty, and Christoph Lipp, one of our resident aliens, he is a 7K plus driver. He's going to capture the pole here. And talking about curbs, he is excellent at this track, and you will see him run the ragged edge throughout this one. Next to him in row 1, Havard Gullikson in P2, our current season leader. Behind them, Heinz Braun next to Nikos Handke, a new name for me. Christopher Inakis will be next to Kjetil Larson in row 3. And James Berry, past champion, next to Rafa Blanco, 7 and 8. Paki Caruso will line up next to Denis Kyriakopoulos there in row 5. George Gonzaga next to Luke Crowley in row 6. Andreas Friedrich, uncharacteristically way in the back there. He's a top 10 runner, stuck back in P13, so we'll be watching for him to move up. He'll line up next to Tom Lennox Braun in row 7, and all the way in the back it's Max Weigand next to Sebastian Lipp, the brother of Christoph, who is sitting on pole. So every car here tiptoeing through the tulips. Oh my gosh, you can't stop me. And as we wait for the start here, we are underway. We are green, and it looks like Lipp is going to get away clean. It's Lipp from Gullikson, from Heinz Braun, and everybody pretty well behaved here as they go into that tough first section on cold tires.
And Handke with a bit of a sideways snap heading through into turn number 1, dancing around this track. Gonna be super tough for these drivers to try and manage with a lack of runoff area as well. Really hard to try and get some moves done, seeing some side-by-side racing heading off through the first chicane. That, I believe, was involving Rafa Blanco, your race winner last time out at Alton Park, and Paki Caruso. That's a battle for 8th at the present moment. I think that's going to result in Caruso in the 8 car remaining in P8. But at the front of the field, Christoph Lipp trying to build a gap to himself and Heinz Braun, very quick driver in this series, but he's usually the one who's most willing to break his elbows out and really start to tussle with some of his competitors around a racetrack like this. I'm not entirely sure if that driving style is going to match, but he currently found himself in P2 down to the hairpin.
Yeah, Braun qualifying pretty well here. And Ron, as you point out, we typically do see Braun kind of charging his way through the field, elbows out, but he only has Lipp in front of him at this point. And we'll hop on board with George Gonzaga right now, sitting, where is he? Back in P12. We're coming up the back straight. You see that draft go to work, that gap in front of James Berry rather in P6 dropping. And here we go, banging over those curbs, brushing up against next to the Wall of Champions, and no action there yet. Heinz Braun, though, might think he has a little run, shows his nose to the outside of Lipp. Not enough speed, but he is all over Lipp like the plastic on grandma's couch, and that is something that Lipp is not used to. I fully expected him to drive away at this one, so we'll keep an eye on that gap. So far, Heinz Braun hanging on to 2/10 gap to Lipp in P1.
And Braun and Lipp, the two Germans at the north end of this field, trying to shake off your reigning champion of Harvard Gullikson and the pack right behind like a bad case of the fleas. Let's see if they will be able to do it. Currently separated by about a half a second, heading their way out of the second chicane. Lots of chicanes around here. That was heading through the turn number 6 and 7 section, down this not so straight back straightaway, off into turn number 8 and 9. Another heavy braking zone spotted with that bridge, which makes it really tricky to try and nail down a break braking zone, but coming through there, you can see the grass and patchy asphalt runoff area, which will create one heck of a wild ride for these drivers if they just so happen to go off the track. As look at the dive heading down into the hairpin. James Berry looking to get a move on Kendall Larson, and Christopher Yanaka is going to follow in suit.
Wow, what a move by Barry. Brave on the brakes there into that hairpin very early in this one. And Barry showing his stuff. As we said, Barry, multiple times champion of the Radical Esports Cup and its predecessor here on the iRacing service, and showing his abilities on the brakes. I don't think Larson saw that coming, caught Larson napping. Larson left the inside open. Barry stuck it in there and moves up, now up 2. And Barry may be working his way up to the podium. Barry, a very patient driver. We've seen him do good things over the years. And there's Yanakis, watches out at turn 1 there. So easy to do under hard braking, trying to get that Radical towed up for that left-hander, and Yanakis into the grass.
And Christopher Yanakis learning the hard way the challenges around this racetrack. The grass, despite the fact it was reworked here on the iRacing platform a couple of seasons ago, still going to be treacherous around a track like this in real life. A lot of these grass sections now completely paved over with asphalt shows you the age of this scan, and you can definitely see with some of the signage around this track. But nonetheless, not talking about the runoff area, but talking about some of the other challenges around here. The bumps around this version, super tough as well. This was in a brief period of time, I believe, when Formula One had just returned here. They didn't race here in 2009 for whatever reason it may be, but nevertheless, this track, it's a bumpy scan, it's a bumpy and rough ride, and it's been quite some time since we saw the Radical Official Series run here. I believe it was all the way back in Season 1 or Season 2 of 2023, the last time the Radical Esports Cup, or at the time the Radical Racing Challenge, visited this facility. So lots of these drivers, despite the fact they've been around the block for quite some time, they don't have the prerequisite experience running around here, but they have the experience with whacking the curbs, as that was a beautiful camera shot following Lip and Braun whacking the curbs to the final chicane.
Yeah, great camera work there as we see Lip and Braun both rolling the dice there, and it is super sketchy there, folks, to bang that Radical over those curbs and put the power down and keep it off the wall of champions. Sebastian Vettel couldn't do it. Schumacher hit there, Damon Hill, and a number of other people. So it is a trap for the unwary, and Lip and Braun showing their expertise there and also showing some pace. Look at that gap, already up to 1.4 seconds. Lip and Braun are driving away from the season leader, Havard Gullikson, who is leading a smaller train behind. And again, keeping an eye on Barry. He's got about a half second up to Handke. Kendall Larson back behind Barry. So the field pretty well glued together here, Ron, with the exception of Lip and Braun driving off up front.
And one thing to raise, talking about Christoph Lip and Heinz Braun at the north end of the field, last time by, they set exactly the same lap time. They both set a 1:30.483 compared to Harvard Gullikson a little bit farther in the back, who's about 2 seconds, not 2 seconds, 0.2 of a second slower last time by. That shows you how competitive those drivers at the front of the field are. They're going tit for tat when it comes to speed, and you can see them chasing the draft, heading down that back straightaway as a move maybe for P7, Packy Caruso, and Kendall Larson battling hard off into the chicane. Caruso gonna jump his way up into P6. Larson dropping down to 7th at the front of the field, though. You can see Lip. Oh, that was a big one coming out of the final corner.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened back there. That might have been Max Weigand taking a looper there out of that final chicane. He may have had some help from Friedrich as well. Both of those drivers drop down, and look at that battle on our bottom box, riding along with Kendall Larson. Larson looking up at Packy Caruso, these two frequent flyers with us here on the Radical Esports Cup. And man, oh man, what a show is happening right now, Ron. And every time we come here, these drivers show their willingness to hang it all on the line to put on a good performance here for our 2100 GMT broadcast, and they're doing it again today.
And as you've said, JR, for many, many moons when it comes to these Radical SR10 official broadcasted races, mastery of this car will make you better in just about anything that you drive. And you can see it put on full display right now. These drivers, they're not going out for a Friday night cruise. They're not going out for a simple drive. They're having to muscle these cars around this racetrack, whether it be hitting the curbs, hitting the bumps, heading down these long flat out blasts, where with how powerful the draft is in these race cars, you can see some drivers swap positions in the blink of an eye. You're going to see these drivers have a hotly contested race from the drop of the green flag all the way through to the fall of the checkered. Christoph Lipp still withstanding that challenge from Heinz Braun for now, as his teammate of Andres Friedrich is a little bit farther in the back of the field. He can follow in the number 3 car, adding his way through that final series of corners, and it was himself in the 16-year right. You're right, it was Max Weingarts who had that moment heading out of the final chicane, mega slow, and Friedrich with nothing he could have done to avoid the contact.
Yeah, Friedrich driving close there. Weigon turns, and Friedrich just had to let Weigons be Weigons and lost his nose there. So Friedrich, this one not turning out at all to his liking. He's definitely a top 10 runner, usually at the pointy end of this field, and it is over for him, and he's actually pitted that Radical. So he has had enough of this one after that bit of bad luck. He struggled in qualifying and ended up in that little kerfuffle in that very, very tough final chicane leading onto the front straight. Meanwhile, up front, it is Lipp from Braun's. Heinz Braun still with about a 0.3 gap. Havard Gullikson about 2.5 behind them. And I got to say, Ron, Braun could have taken a couple cracks at Lipp here, and you see him stick his nose out from behind Lipp, and I think he's trying to avoid the draft for now, and he's just going to wait until the final lap to make his move then. So he's kind of showing his hand coming out of the draft so that he doesn't catch too much on Lipp, and he's going to let him have it on the last lap.
Oh, as you can see, Christoph Lipp giving a slight scrape of the wall coming out of there, hitting the wall of champions. It's a small little scrape. It's not a big whack, but he doesn't want to have more moments like that between now and the checkered flag, as Christoph Lipp still running strong. Heinz Braun slotted in P2. Havard Gullikson looking to have a good run of things at the present moment. He entered the season as your reigning champion here from the Radical Esports Cup, currently slotted in 3rd. Let's see what the driver of the number 2 car may be able to do.
Yeah, and man, you're right about that wall of champions. They could call it the wall of Technicolor. There is a paint chip from every car imaginable painting that wall, and these Radicals are pretty tough, but those hard hits to the side can cause suspension damage. So again, if you want to run the kind of lap times that Lipp and Braun are running up front, you got to roll the dice on every lap, and you see him do it again there as they approach that final hairpin. Another section of chicanes with high curbs, and you can stay off them and cost you a couple tenths, or you can do the full send and bounce that Radical over the curb, as you see these two do, and that's why they're driving away right now, Ron.
And that's part of the reason why these drivers are some of the best that the Radical SR10s have to offer here on the iRacing platform. Christoph Lipp, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, JR, but I believe he is the reigning champion from the Radical European Championship, won it in 2024. And a lot of the drivers that you see in this race are standout stars from either the Americas Championship or the European Championship, and they're showing off why. They are very quick drivers, and even discounting the drivers who we haven't seen in the European Championship, which you can catch occasionally on Sundays here on RaceSpot TV. You just look through the guy like Heinz Braun, for instance, in the number 5 car. As much as I mentioned a little bit earlier on that he's a bit of an aggressive racer and can definitely get the elbows out, as Christopher Lipp scraping his elbows coming out of the first chicane. He's a quick driver and he has a lot of experience running in these SR10s. You look at more drivers, the likes of Nikos Handkut, who's only made his debut here in these SR10s, I believe, here in Season 2 of 2025. He showed up occasionally thus far this season, but he's usually been rather quick. You just look through, there's a lot of standout stars in these SR10s that show up week in and week out to these Friday 2100 GMT top split broadcasted races from the official Radical Esports Cup Series here on the iRacing platform. Very quick drivers, very talented, and very competitive as well. They know what to do, and they know their competitors as well. They can capitalize capitalize on the mistakes that their competitors make. And it's a two-way street when it comes to that as well. Heinz Braun going to capitalize on errors from Christoph Lipp. Christoph Lipp going to capitalize on Braun's mistakes as well.
Yeah, too right, Ron, and that kind of reflects the community of these Radical drivers. They have a Discord server where they hang out, they practice together and coach each other and help each other improve during the week. So they're very well familiar with each other, know each other's tendencies. And for Christoph Lipp, he knows right now, for example, that Heinz Braun is biding his time, and on lap 17, he's going to have to fight off a full send coming into that final chicane because Braun definitely biding his time and waiting to pounce there. And Braun very aggressive. If he sees a sliver of light between the wall and Christoph Lipp, he's going to stuff that SR10 in there if it means taking victory. So Heinz Braun sometimes criticized, I think, for his aggression, but there is no arguing his car control, his racecraft, and his skill piloting these SR10s.
And when we think about the two at the front of this field, I gotta wonder when Heinz Braun is maybe going to pounce. He's been playing the patient game, running behind Christoph Lipp, and really just trying to position himself well to the end of this race. To finish first you have to finish. I've read that in a fortune cookie before, and I'm sure Heinz Braun has that saying emboldened into his head at the present moment. Will he try and pounce on Christoph Lipp heading into the hairpin? Will he try and do it on the final lap heading into the chicane? That's a good spot to do it. Hey, when NASCAR ran here many moons ago, it was a move in the final chicane that decided one of those races. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I do remember it happening. It can be done around here, and in these sports cars, you have those fenders. It's not like an open wheel car where if you go for a move heading off into the final chicane, you're either going to hit that barrier and vault yourself up into low Earth orbit, you're going to make wheel-to-wheel contact and go vault yourself up into low Earth orbit. We may see that battle up at the front get ever so slightly physical. Both those drivers looking to bring in the final quarter of the season in the best way imaginable with the victory here at Montreal, and I don't think they're going to stop at really any costs.
Yeah, too right, Ron. And boy, oh boy, some battles going on up and down this entire field. There's a train I see forming behind Packy Crusoe, 3 or 4 cars with some very tight intervals. We got Kyriakopoulos with Lennox Brown, Crowley, and Yanakis, and Gonzaga and Sebastian Lipp behind him. So these cars do tend to train up in any track with a long straightaway, and is one of the things that can make racing these Radicals exciting. And my goodness, Lipp and Braun have completely checked out here. They've stretched this lead out to 4 seconds back to Havard Gullikson, who again is our season leader. He is no slouch, but Lipp and Braun feeling it here in Montreal and putting down the lap times. And we'll take a quick look down at the battle for ninth. As I said, that is Kyriakopoulos with Lennox Brown, Crowley, Yanakis, Gonzaga, and Lipp. That is 6 cars with about a second and a half between them. So something is going to be happening in that train before this one is over. And we'll see if Denis can withstand the pressure that he's getting right now from Tom Lennox Brown. You see somebody taking a peek around the outside there. That's got to be Yanakis there in the purple car. That one's familiar to us here. And some more great camera work. There we are, right up on that Technicolor wall of champions with all the different colors from cars who have had bad encounters with it. And here is Kyriakopoulos under pressure again. Oh, a little over rotation there, and that was Tom Lennox Brown trying to trail brake there into that turn 1, trail braking a little bit too aggressively, over rotating. He managed to save it, but lost a position for his trouble.
Yeah, and Tom Brown having a Code Brown moment heading down into turn number 1. That's one thing that you see a lot in these SR10s. When you overshoot it into one of these turns, you're not going to just lock it up and go into the gravel or the grass or whatever sort of runoff area, maybe on the outside of the turn that you just cooked yourself into. You're going to find yourself losing it at the apex and then having to turn your front tires into rectangles to get woed up again. That's a tough moment for Tom Lennox Brown. Finds himself in P12, fittingly in the number 12 car, but this battle is very intense at the present moment. You can see a lot of cars involved in this. Maybe these two of Denis Kyriakopoulos and Luke Crowley maybe breaking away a little bit. The gap has ballooned out ever so slightly between themselves and the driver of Christopher Yanakis in that very striking purple, black, and I believe that'd be lime green car in the number 7. Oh no, I was never very good in art class, but nonetheless, we still may see some swapperoos in this battle. In fact, we may see one hang down into the chicane. Luke Crowley looking to get that move done. Kiriakopoulos backing out of it, understandably so. Side-by-side racing heading into the final chicane. I mean, there's worse ways to head through that chicane, but I'm sure being on fire would not be ideal for these drivers either.
Yeah, without a doubt. Kiriakopoulos showing his experience there, did not contest the entry to that final chicane, which would have slowed both cars down. And right now, Kiriakopoulos is looking back at Yanakis, about a half-second gap back to him. So he thought better of fighting that one, lined up behind Crowley, and made the best time they could through that chicane because they've got a pile up behind them and more cars coming up behind to attack. 5 laps left in this one, and there is plenty of time for some more shuffling in that long train, which I'm sure we're going to see.
Yeah, still plenty of time for some movers and shakers to make their way up through the field. At the front of the field as well, it should be known, Christoph Lipp has built up that gap now, 1.8 seconds between himself and Heinz Braun with 5 laps left to go in this race. So a little bit surprising there. I want to see what may have gone on involving Heinz Braun. I'm going to look back myself and let you know that last time by, I'm looking through. I think it's just been a gradual loss of pace for Heinz Braun, unless there's been something that's going on in this current lap, and my current statistics have not told me anything of the sort. He crosses the line now, and that lap time from Heinz Braun was a 132.208. So something definitely went wrong for Heinz Braun. Try saying that 5 times fast on the last lap. And let's have a look at it. As he was chasing Christoph Lipp, this moment maybe through the first chicane.
Ooh, yeah, there it is. Got a little bit of grass there, and my goodness, it does not take much. And with this level of competition, a minor mistake like that cost Braun about 1.5 seconds. And my goodness, that is all Lipp needs. And Braun may be kicking himself right now, Ron. He had a number of opportunities to make something happen, to get in front of Lipp, and made just a slight little bobble there. And Christoph Lipp is gone. That 1.8 second gap, unless Lipp makes an error, is going to be insurmountable for Heinz, and Christoph's going to have this one in the bag.
As we see side-by-side racing heading down into the chicane involving Paki Caruso and Kettle Larson. There's so many chicanes heading off through this track that feels rather stupid. You got chicane number 1, chicane number 2, that was chicane number 3, and they'll have to head their way off through chicane number 4 around this track to bring this lap to a conclusion. But nevertheless, getting back to the point that you raised, Heinz Braun, he is absolutely going to be kicking himself. An easy mistake to make, to be sure. If anyone remembers the controversy at the 2019 Canadian Grand Prix when Sebastian Vettel went off the track in that same section of the racetrack and they gave the win to Lewis Hamilton because of an off-track penalty. Basically what happened there is, that could have ended in tears with Paki Caruso and Kettle Larson nearly going side-by-side through into the final chicane right at the end of this lap. They single-filed out Larson, a veteran of this series, clearly thinking better of it. Paki Caruso trying to hold his own in P6 as it stands at the present moment, but just to finally wrap up that point, it's an easy mistake to make, heading your way off through the turns number 3 and 4 chicane, but it's going to sting nonetheless. The gap now north of 1 second between Christoph Lipp and Heinz Braun.
Yeah, that 3-4 combo, so tough. You have to go a lot slower than you think. And as the race wears on, and here it is right here, there's a little wiggle as the race wears on. You want to push yourself a little bit more, brake a little bit deeper, but you just can't. You have to have braking discipline and make sure you don't overcook these entries. Same thing right here. Just a little bit of red mist can have you entering that chicane too fast. It will blow the exit, and we've seen it happen to a couple drivers here, and we saw it happen to Heinz Braun. It cost him 2 seconds and potentially the win.
Yeah, and if it is the win for Christoph Lipp in the number 1 car, he is going to be feeling very happy about that. Ever since Christoph Lipp joined the Radical Esports Cup World about a year and a couple of months ago at this point, I believe he joined rather early on into season number 1 of 2024. He's been quick in these SR10s, and thus far this season, he has been rather quick. Won round number 2 of these 2100 GMT broadcasted races on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing YouTube channel. won it at Road America, but has not returned to victory lane since. Now, however, it looks like he has a fantastic opportunity to return to victory lane in the final 4 rounds of this championship, and looking through the rest of the season schedule, VIR, Bathurst, and Interlagos to bring this season to a conclusion. And a reminder to anyone tuning into this broadcast here on iRacing or on RaceSpot TV, should be noted that in a couple of days we'll have the action from the Radical Americas Championship running at this exact same racetrack. Gonna be seeing some more of iRacing's best and some more of the Radical SR10's best here on the iRacing platform, hauling the mail at this exact same racetrack. Those races a lot longer, 60 minutes, got 2 pit stops. JR, you're going to be out on track for those, so I feel like you may be using this broadcast as some good sighting points for that Americas race this upcoming weekend.
Boy, I'll tell you what, and it is stressful enough. I did the race 2 hours prior to this one, so the public session prior to this, and it is stressful to complete one of these 20-minute races and to do 60 with pit stops. Yeah, it's going to be stressful, but that's what makes racing fun, right? And taking a look now, who have we got up top there? Bet off of third. That is Gullickson with Handke behind, and down at the bottom, Kettle, Larson, and Caruso still fighting it out there, and looked like Larson was going to get the move done there. Oh, a little squeeze and another paint chip on the wall of champions, and Larson has about had enough of that, and there's somebody shooting through Blanco. That whatever happened there slowed both of those cars down. Blanco taking advantage of that. Thank you very much. He's just been hanging around in the background, saw those guys fighting all this time, and had a feeling something like that might happen, and it did. And that'll put Blanco up into P6.
And Rafa Blanco having an okay drive compared to what he had at Alton Park 1 week ago, though maybe going to leave a bit of a sour taste in his mouth one last time out for the 7th round, actually 8th round. Holy cow, time flies when you're having fun from the season. One of the 8th round at Alton Park 1 week ago, but nonetheless, still going to be a good drive for him. Going to be a good drive for a lot of these competitors, and I gotta say, JR, as involved in that incident with himself and Max Weingart heading through the final corner in the earlier stages of this race, but outside of that, it's been a rather clean showing here at Montreal. We are expecting it to be a bit of an attrition-packed race considering the challenges of the circuit, the fact that a lot of these racers, despite being very much so veterans here in the world of the Radical Esports Cup, not having the experience around here compared to some others. It's rather surprising, the fact that we've seen such a clean race up to this point. Certainly not complaining about that, just a bit surprising.
It is a bit surprising, Ron. There is so much high risk around here. There are so many places where the ideal racing line takes you all the way up to the wall, and we've seen those puffs of concrete dust as these radicals will get a little smooch on the wall here and there. You see them banging over those curbs with which these cars really don't like. The fixed setup being used here, quite stiff, doesn't like banging over the curbs. And yeah, you're right. I expected to see a few more incidents here. These drivers racing extremely clean and really showing good judgment and car control. And good car control is always pretty evident here, but sometimes the judgment part can be in short supply. And Lip has taken the white flag here, and we're going to see him navigate that chicane for the last time. He's going to be taking the checker here before too much longer as he hops onto that back straight, and we'll go under the bridge here and under the second bridge, and we're going to approach the braking zone here for the final time, banging over this chicane. And you'll see how Lip approaches this. Bang, bang. Oh my goodness. And Lip will take the win. And you see how Lip uses those curbs. They are a guide. They're not something to be avoided. He drives on them every lap. And you saw the result here. And Lip, absolutely fantastic wheeling these radicals and takes the win easily. It's going to be Braun hanging on for P2 despite that mistake of Art Gullickson in third. And we'll have your complete results for you here in a moment. But yeah, great observation, Ron. I really was expecting a few more mistakes because of the high risk nature of driving Gilles Villeneuve, but we just didn't see that today.
I know, actually, this is something that I usually mention during the races themselves. Pretty much optimal track conditions for these drivers from the drop of the green flag all the way through to the fall of the checkered. Track temps in the high 70s and very low 80s. Perfect for the tires, perfect for these competitors, and just an overall perfect day for Christoph Lip.
Yeah, and what a fantastic race for Lip. And you see him there. He has won this one by 3 seconds. So there are your final results. It is Christoph Lip from Heinz Braun, Havard Gullikson, Nikos Handke, and James Barry will make up the top 5. Then it's going to be Pecci Caruso, Rafa Blanco, Kjetil Larsen, Sebastian Lip, and Luke Crowley will round out the top 10. Crowley making a nice push there through traffic. Then Denis Kyriakopoulos, Christopher Yanakis, Tom Lennox Brown with some struggles. George Gonzaga, the last car on the lead lap there in P14. Then Friedrich and Weigon there. Weigon Bindit finished that one in the pits. Friedrich took repairs and went back out and kept driving. But there be your results from this one at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. And my goodness, what a fantastic race. And this season not over. This is only week 9. We talked about the upcoming schedule with you. And next week, we are headed to Virginia International Raceway, often called the American Nordschleife. And that is going to be an absolute barn burner. And you are going to want to tune in for that. But let's just take a quick peek, Ron, outside and see if there's anybody lingering in the green room to speak to us. And yeah, it looks like we do have a few folks, and we will start with my dragger isn't working. Interesting. Maybe you can grab Christoph, Ron. It's not working for me.
Alrighty, sounds good. I will grab Christoph Lip, drag him in by the collar, and I will make sure that he is all yours, JR. Here's Christoph Lip, our winner.
Christoph Lip, man, what a race today. We know that Gilles Villeneuve is a favorite track for you. You always perform really well here, and I was kind of expecting you to drive away, but instead you had Heinz Braun polishing your bumper for a big piece of that. He finally ended up making an error, but do you think he might have made a mistake by not trying to pass and kind of laying in the weeds for about half of that race and not trying to make a move on you?
Yeah, I think I was also a bit surprised about the pace of Heinz. It was absolutely fast. I think he in lap 1 he threw a hook to my rear, and then he stayed there and made me really sweat a lot. I just said to him in the chat, and I think he did really smart. He didn't attack me. We could drive away from the other pack, and I guess he was preparing for an attack in the end when it was just about 1 and 2. And then, yeah, I assume he made a mistake, and oh man, I was it was a big relief for me. Then I could relax a little bit more there. So yeah, congrats to Heinz for the strong race, and yeah, happy to be on P1.
Yeah, and you don't usually have somebody polishing your bumper like that. And when you watch the replay, Braun just went a little bit wide in that 3-4 chicane, got in the grass, and that's all it took for you to break the draft, and you ended up winning by almost 3 seconds. So another great drive for you, Christoph, and thanks for coming in to speak with us. As we wrap up today, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, of course, greets to the whole Inert Racing team, to my brother, and again, also congrats to Heinz and also to Howard for the good result and the great race.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And that was Christoph Lip, your winner, showing his stuff here in these radicals. And we'll move on now to our P2 driver, Heinz Braun, coming in P2. Heinz, that was a pretty interesting race. I had an expectation that Lip was going to get away early, and you prevented that. You hung with him for more than half of that race, and it looked like you were biding your time, waiting to the end to make a move, and then a small mistake allowed him to get away. So looking back, do you wish you would have tried to get in front of him when you had the opportunity?
No, it's exactly as you described. I was sure that when I'm ahead of him that we would fight all the time and then lose time to the others, so that we maybe get a lucky group of 4 or 6 in the last laps. So I really tried to avoid anything and just was looking out to fight with him the last 2 laps with maybe 4.5 seconds ahead of Havard. But yeah, it didn't work out. I made the mistake in the 4th corner and get a slowdown. So that was the mistake. But yeah, it would have been great last 2 laps, because I would think we would have fighted back and forth due to the slipstream. And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't make it. It was a more tactical race, and yeah, then I had the mistake.
Well, and I got to say that P2 in this field is nothing to shake a stick at, and neither is staying within 3 or 4 tenths of Christoph Lipp for 10, 12 laps, however long that was. So really a fantastic drive, Heinz, to put you on the podium in P2, and really, really great stuff aside from that small error and just a little bit of grass there caught you out. But really fantastic drive, and congratulations. And as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, of course, to to the driver colleagues. It's a great community. Also to you guys, I really have fun with this Radicals on iRacing. It's a pleasure every time, and I hope this continues for a long time. So.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming by and speaking with us. And go ahead and grab a beverage of your choice and sit down and watch that broadcast. You and Christoph got quite a bit of screen time in that one, so you should enjoy.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
All right, that was Heinz Braun, and we got the whole podium here today, Ron. And have you got any questions for Havard Gullikson, who kept it clean and drove a smooth race, and had to watch Lipp and Braun drive off here today?
Well, that I absolutely do. Havard, welcome into the commentary booth, and well done on the podium. Happy to talk us through the challenges here at Montreal.
This was a workout. I'm really sweaty. I did a small mistake in the start, so Hans Braun came by, and on the first lap in the last chicane before the start finish, I did another mistake, and then I lost the draft. So from there on out, it was just a really dogfight trying to hold Nikos behind me, because he was really fast.
Yeah, it looked like a dogfight between you two throughout this race, and battling around this track has to be super, super tough as well. As you just described, really tough trying to keep these SR10s on the road around this track. But going to be heading to a different facility, VIR, in 1 week's time. That track is an absolute hoot, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an American. What are your thoughts heading into the next round this season?
I'm not sure. Which track did you say it was?
Virginia International Raceway, VIR.
Oh, yeah. I think I have raced 1 or 2 races before, and I like the track. So yeah, I will try to stay in the top. But these guys are so fast. And Christoph today, maybe this was one of his favorite tracks, I think, and he was in a different league. Very good of Heinz to keep up the most of the race, but Christoph was the best, of course.
And looking forward to seeing all you drivers hit the track in 1 week's time for that race at VIR. Havard, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and well done on the podium here today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up our podium interviews for today. And as we said, be sure and hit that subscribe icon and hit the notification icon as well, so you don't miss any of the action here on RaceSpot TV. Coming up next Friday, 2100 GMT, these Radical Warriors are back at it, as we said, at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, a track that is very well suited to these Radicals. It is hilly, it is smooth. Curbs don't really play that big of a role here, so we'll be leaving those huge curbs behind, and the massive mechanical grip and downforce of these SR10s will be on full display at VIR, complete with a nice long back straightaway to show off that slipstream effect as well. So be sure and join us next week for that. It is absolutely guaranteed to be an instant classic. And folks, that is going to wrap up today's broadcast, week 9 of 2025, season 2 of the Radical Esports Cup. And thank you so much. I am JR Gregory on behalf of myself, my partner Racing Ron Mons, and our producer Ramiro Cisneros, and everyone here at RaceSpot TV. Have a great Friday and an even better weekend.